I'm in the present, no judgment, I'm here now. I'm in the present, no judgment.
Hello and welcome to Here in the Now podcast with your host, JG Larochette from Mindful Life Project. Welcome to episode 7. Today's episode is waiting as a state of mind. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see where your mind is at. And we're going to check in on how important it is as educators, as humans, to be in the present moment, not wanting life to be in the future. So welcome again. You can find us on Spotify, now on Apple Podcasts. Check us out there. Mindful Life Project TV on YouTube, and of course, Anchor. Please subscribe, put some comments out there, share some love. We are here for you, the educator. Wellness for you is so important, especially in these times. So welcome back. Hope the last week or so since you heard the last podcast has been easeful as possible, has been nurturing mind, body, and heart, and has been as integrated as can be. And as we are working towards this mindfulness and compassion community as a group right now, you, the listener, just check in. It's, that time of year where maybe we're starting to think about the holidays, waiting for the next vacation. We're allowing the mind to wander onto, when the next 2-week break is, the holiday break, right? Whatever it is. And what does that bring up for you right now? Just think of that, waiting as a state of mind. How often are we waiting? How often are we waiting for the bell to ring? How often are we waiting for Friday afternoon? How often are we waiting for that holiday break? Just check in with yourself and be honest with yourself. I remember as a classroom teacher and even as I started the organization to work in schools across the state and beyond, that waiting a state of mind is thinking something better is yet to come, right? This guy is better than what it is right now, right? When I was in my classroom, my students, it was when I was stressed out that I couldn't wait for the next 3-day weekend, right? Or when I didn't feel good mentally and emotionally myself, I couldn't wait for the 2-week break. And what does that do for our mental and emotional health? Well, what we know to be very true is whenever the mind is thinking, it can go into 3 different types of thoughts, right? Future thoughts about what's happening in the future, and that can angle our mind towards a little more worry, concern, anxiousness, right? Past thoughts about the past, and that can go towards, healthy and good memories and fun times, or it can go towards some of the stressors and traumas, right? And the angling there can get us a little more in the depressive kind of mode. And then when we're cultivating here-ness right now, we can let go of the future and past, not be entangled in what might happen or what did happen, but actually be in what's real right now. The issue that we see is that so many of us, when we're struggling with our mental and emotional health, we're burned out, we're tired, we're exhausted, the mind's going to tilt to wishing things were different than what they are. And when that happens, we start to get ourselves stuck in cycles of anxiousness, overwhelm, sadness, just stuck to certain strong emotions. That back of the brain activity, the cortisol, the adrenaline, and we're thinking, well, this isn't the way life's supposed to be right now. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. Let me be in a different place. Right? The more we live in that, wanting life to be different than the way it is right now, the more we have mental and emotional health problems and challenges, right? And the more we start focusing on wishing it was later in the future, when this will happen, right? The more we're starting to get caught in a trap. A mental trap. A trap that's going to want life to be a certain way, and when it's not, something's wrong. And the way the brain perceives that, right, especially we talk about the back of the brain, the amygdala, the stress response, is analyzing information as safe or dangerous, right? Survival or challenged in our survival. So the more our mind starts getting drifted and wishing it were a different time, it was the future, it was summer vacation, right? The more we're actually perpetuating the stress response to think something is wrong right now, the more those stress hormones are launching into our bodies, right? The more amped up that amygdala is. So here in this work that we're doing in mindfulness and compassion is literally the opposite. right? Literally, it's like this moment, these emotions, these thoughts, these physical experiences are as they need to be, and I welcome them. And you even go deeper in the practice, right? In the relational aspect, is that yes, do we have challenges in our classroom? For sure. Do we have needs in our classroom? For sure. Are we under-resourced and under-supported? For sure in our systems, right? We know that. But that you're actually able to reposition your mind, your heart, and your body back here now. So instead of like that one thing that triggered me in class and the perpetuation, that stress response, and then wishing it weren't right now, right? That we don't get carried away with that, right? If a student is misbehaving, if there's challenges in the ecosystem you're in, we're going to go into a stress response, fight, flight, freeze, right? And when we go into those stress responses, the more ingrained the neural pathways of our brain are. So now when emotion arises, even if we're sitting after school in our classroom, the same stress response can get escalated, right? And no kids have to be in your room. So when we're starting to work towards full radical acceptance of what this full human experience is right now, the more we can let go of waiting as a state of mind. And what does that sound like to you? It doesn't mean we can't be excited about the future. We can't be optimistic about, oh, I have a week off. It's not that at all. It's just knowing that this experience in this moment is what it needs to be for me. This anxiousness, this fear, whatever it is that's arising is okay in its fullest way. Now, if we're physically in danger, that's different. If we're emotionally, mentally being harmed by something, you have to, of course, make the right decisions, the healthy decisions as well as we can to reach for support, to make sure we're not in situations that are dangerous. But when we're talking about this inner experience, we actually can radically change the way by which we engage in the here and now. That's what we're doing here in this community. We're working towards building our connection to mindful awareness, to compassion practices, to knowing we're not by ourselves. And we're engaging in the waiting of the state of mind, or the wishing these emotions weren't here, or thinking these thoughts aren't right. We're actually doing the opposite. We're saying they are what they need to be, and I fully accept them with love and care. So let's just pause for a second. That's a lot of information for you listeners out there. Just reflect. What are some things that tilt your mind to wishing things were different? When does that arise for you throughout a week or a month? What's the seasonality of it, right? Mental state of mind, the golden state of mind, would be that, hey, I am actually fully where I need to be right now at all times, right? If I'm in my classroom and students are focused and aware and integrated and things are moving smoothly, wonderful. If they're not, instead of the judgment, the criticism, the fear, the reaction, how do I become present so I can be in my own wellness, so that I can be fully present for my young people and start to play with these moments, right? It's like resistance. I always say if we're working with resistance in education, that's something we want to love to be with, because what else, what better thing to work with as educators working with resistance? How many of your kids love math? How many of your kids love reading? How many of your kids love writing, right? How many of your students don't like some of those things? How many of the times when you're teaching a lesson do you see resistance? And it's because, why? Their thoughts, their emotions, they're tilting the weighting of state of mind of like, I'm not good at this. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident. Or I can't wait till it's after school because this feels stressful. The key is both are the same, right? The resistance you're sensing from students can be the stored trauma and stress they have, but also whatever we're creating in that space. So how do we become more and more present in this human body, mind, and heart? And then how do we create that within not only our students, our colleagues, our families, and our community, and of course, our families, our own families, right? We're not just, and it's always so funny, right? Kids, especially elementary, like, oh, you must live here. Like, that's all you are as a teacher, right? We actually have to realize too that personal life and professional life are integrated. To think that when I'm on as a teacher and then I'm off and as a family member at home or whatever it is, like, no, we are integrated systems. And when we're not integrated, we're disintegrated. So let's move to today some practices. All right. When the mind tilts towards the future and the waiting, the wishing, the hope that this isn't what we want to be in right now, we need to be in something better or something better yet to come, or when the mind goes to the past, right? Thoughts perpetuate emotions, and emotions trigger the stress response, and we can have them go back and forth. So in today's mindfulness practice, we're really going to work on those two, mindful thinking and mindful emotions. Mindful thinking is just full friendly flashlight of awareness. Like there you are thoughts, there you are future, there you are present, there you are past, no judgment, right? Welcoming them, because what they are is just messages. They're not right, they're not wrong, they're just messages coming and going. So we mentally can note, all right, my mind's in the future, future thinking, future thinking, future thinking. And then by naming it and by mental noting it, we're actually coming back to our prefrontal cortex. We're able to realize we're actually here now. And then we can watch with awareness what's happening in the mind. Will the next thought be future thought? Will it be past? Will it be present? Right? And then as we start to really become students of our own mind, we can also start interrupting the train of association of thoughts, the train of association to emotions, and those emotions triggering the stress response. Okay? Mindful emotions, just like mindful thinking, we're just watching them. We're just curious and attention of welcoming them. Where are they showing up? What are they showing up for? Why are they there? And then, of course, that deep radical acceptance that you belong because you're just a message to, you're just a friend. You're here to teach me again. Either things come to us as a teacher, right? Something that might be a little more challenging. It might come to us over and over again, or a blessing. And the blessings, we know what they are, right? Those moments of magic that we have in our lives. So we're going to do our practice, mindful thinking, mindful emotions. Again, 8 minutes of mindfulness a day, at the minimum, the research proves can literally change the architecture of your brain. So we're not so much in that back of the brain where those thoughts trigger the emotions, or the ruminations of future thinking and worry, the past and resentment or regret or whatever, that we're right back where? Here in the now. That's where we are. That's what we're playing with. That's the only place we can actually be alive. So let's cultivate it. Find that comfortable position. Feet flat, spine in a line, hands in your lap, heart to the sky. Maybe move around a little bit. You may have been sitting for a long time today. Knowing that movement, shaking, rubbing, right? Just the contact and touch, oxytocin, mimicking caregiving. So give yourself a little massage if you want. Just like the cheeks, the forehead, right? Maybe the hands, the arms. Just release, right? Release them. And then, as always, finding that stillness. We're going to start with the sound of the bells we always do, and just noticing if we can stay with the sound for a long time or a short time without judgment, and coming back if we forget. So just noticing that sound as it fades away. And now coming into practice, mindfulness in the seated position is to cultivate deep awareness so that when we're in those moments of our regular everyday life, we can have that presence more available. So every time we practice, it's that mental push-up, that emotional push-up, that heart power that we're working towards. Begin by noticing your full body being here, just from the top of the head to the feet on the ground. Any sensations that are strong or light, any looseness or tightness. Just awareness that this body is here now. And now shifting awareness to a few breaths as we gather our awareness into the present moment. We just notice the breath as it is without needing to change it. The inhale, the pause, and the exhale. As you track the breath, just notice what the breath can tell us without judging it. Just notice what the breath can tell us about our emotional landscape. Is there some tightness, restriction? Is there some ease, looseness? Again, we're just bringing that watcher experience about being entangled or being it with a compassionate heart. And now shifting awareness to the thoughts that arise and pass by, one at a time. So mindfulness of thoughts is noticing, is it a future thought? Is it a present thought? Is it a past thought? And then sometimes we'll go and we'll be lost in a few thoughts in a row and forget. And without judgment, we just gently try again in that spacious awareness. Wait for the next thought to pop up. So noticing if there's patterns, noticing if there are tilts. Is it waiting as a state of mind present right now? We waiting for the next thought to come, wishing it were different? Are the thoughts more in the past or the future or the present? So maybe there's a thought about what's later on today, the to-do list. Oh, just name it, future thinking, future thinking, future thinking. Just name it, mental note it in your mind. Or maybe it's a thought about something that happened earlier today or yesterday or weeks ago. And just again, mental note it, name it, past thinking, past thinking, past thinking in your mind. Or simply a thought about right now. You hear a sound, you start thinking about that sound, and then you can just name it present thinking, present thinking, present thinking. And then notice if there's any spaciousness. So as we're tracking the thoughts without judging them or having an opinion about them, we might notice less charge, less of a connection to stronger emotions, maybe, or the opposite. We welcome any of it. Now moving awareness from thoughts to emotions. So depending on where the arc of the mind was going, check in and see if it affected any of the emotion, the state of the heart right now. Is there some ease, or is there worry? Is there some peace or concern? Is there some compassion or inner critic? How does that affect this connection of the mind, body, and heart? So as we sit in this radical practice of welcoming the full human experience, where is there resistance? Where is there flow and ease? Can we just allow ourselves not to judge that part? Right? All of this can be seen through a non-judgmental lens of watching. Just see how the body is responding right now. That biofeedback. Is the body a little syrupy and the weight heavier? Was the head a little lighter? The shoulders down more? Just checking in for the last few seconds on the body. Thoughts, emotions, body, they're interconnected within this full human experience. And they're all part of our own ability to watch them and not be them, to watch without being entangled, and to allow it to be as it is. Closing with some heartfulness to you, the listener. May you be happy. May you be healthy in mind, body, and heart. May you be filled with peace. May you be filled with love. And may you feel deep ease. Now close practice with the sound of the bell. Just stay with the sound one time all the way through. as you always know, your practice is your practice. What you do after my guidance is up to you. So if it is opening the eyes, if it's stretching, if it's even giving yourself a squeeze, right? Like maybe it's a little massage back to the face, those temples. So how was that for you, right? We were watching the thoughts. They might have been more of the future, they might have been more of the past, more of the present. We're able to leave the judgment behind. They are just thoughts. How that connects to the emotional landscape of your heart. Was there some strong or softer experience there? And then what does that do for the body, right? There is no more important person to have wellness practices. I think everyone deserves it, of course, but when you're an educator, you're working with the emotions and thoughts of so many young folks. So you need to replenish your own. And that's what we're here doing at Here in the Now podcast. We're allowing and arriving back in practice so we can take care of our mental and emotional health in community. Hopefully as growing, maybe you're passing on the podcast to your friends and colleagues at the school, wherever you are at. This isn't just for educators in some ways, right? This is lived experiences. So even some family members that might need this, it is relevant to all of us. So thank you for being a part of our journey. Thanks for being here, episode 7, Here in the Now podcast, again on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, over at our Anchor and Mindful Life Project TV on YouTube. Spread the word, spread the practice. Let's keep building. Heartfulness to all of you. Be well. Thanks again. See you next week.
I'm here now.